Well, hello, welcome. My name is Ed Newt, and I'd like to welcome you to my first podcast that is going to be called The Process. I've acquired many interesting friends over the years, and I've always been fascinated by what they do, when they do it, how they do it. And the opportunity to do a podcast has arisen. And so I'm going to start to be talking to my friends about their art and that. So my first guest is a great friend, Jim Curran, who's a local photographer. And welcome, Jim.
Thanks, Ed.
And let's get into a little bit about where you're from and how you ended up in Plymouth and how you became a photographer.
Well, I've been in Plymouth for about 50 years. My family moved here in 1972, went through the Plymouth school system, and my main focus was kind of in the arts. Ended up going to Butera School of Art after high school, thinking I was going to have a career as an illustrator, graphic designer, and thought maybe I'd be designing album covers for rock bands. But
How'd that work out?
I'm still waiting for the phone to ring.
Exactly. I wanted to be Annie Leibovitz.
Yes.
And that didn't, well, that's a whole other program.
Right. But after art school, I kind of bounced around, didn't really get the job that I was looking for, many interviews. And I ended up back in Plymouth doing paste up for the Old Colony Memorial newspaper.
Wow, yeah.
Which led to a graphic design position.
You worked at, was it Staples? You worked at Staples for a while?
Yes.
I think that might be when we first met.
Right. 14 years at Staples, their corporate advertising, the easy button and all those fancy big budget campaigns.
Were you doing like physical layouts or was it digital then? Or like,
it was all digital there at
Okay,
Staples,
yeah.
all on the computer.
Okay. Yeah. But did you work with cutting and pasting, any of that at any point in your career?
Nothing. Mostly here in Plymouth at the Old Colony. Wasn't exactly cutting edge technology there. But I definitely had a yearning for it. I think the frustration of not being able to do that at that time really made me appreciate when I did have the opportunity, and whether it was the design or being able to bring photos into a program and manipulate them. It was just like a whole new art world for me.
Mm-hmm.
And now it was almost like a backwards entry into photography where I really appreciated and loved doing the manipulation of the art based on a photo.
When did the graphics stop and the photography start?
It was always an overlap. I think until maybe about a year ago, I realized that I really wasn't enjoying graphic design. I was not enjoying the graphic design clients. I
can relate, yes.
Didn't enjoy that world of going back and forth with people who I felt weren't qualified to judge my work.
Really?
Yes.
What's changed?
Well, I think with the photography, I felt more appreciated.
Sure.
I felt I could bill my time at a higher value. And it was a quicker turnaround. It wasn't this back and forth tennis match type of relationship with clients.
Yeah, not the politics, but I'm trying to get the word, the compromises you have to make.
Exactly.
And which I've had to do being a commercial photographer. And you kind of go, do you really want to do that?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to respect that. But being independent, you can pick and choose a little bit more of who you can work with.
Yes.
and what you want to do.
hmm
But so you, at what point did you stop doing graphics and started just doing photography?
Probably about a year ago.
Was it just that soon?
Yeah.
Oh,
'Cause I
okay.
still had a few small projects and people were still asking me for small design things. And I finally did the numbers and including, the time I put into trying to promote myself. And I just felt I was getting a better return with the photography.
Yeah. So you can probably, it's easier to go broke as a photographer than a graphic designer.
Yes. Broke is broke.
Well, it's the starving artist syndrome, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Although with the graphic design, I didn't need as much equipment.
A good point. Yeah.
It wasn't a new lens for graphic design coming out every year. And you weren't trying to have equipment envy with your peers.
Yeah, that can be a vicious circle.
Yeah.
We had talked earlier before we got in here about how you didn't do film. You basically have been digital for most of your career, right?
Yeah, I
As a
started off
photographer.
with film, and my dad sold cameras back in the day for Leachmere. If anyone remembers the old Leachmere sales stores.
Wow.
And he was a bit of a photographer.
Mhm.
He was more of a photography critic. Like he would show me what not to do, or we'd go through the Sunday paper and he'd point out all the wrong things that people would do in their photos.
Was he talking about like composition?
Yes, and
Oh,
composition.
that's great.
Yeah. So I knew what not to do.
Okay.
And I did some film stuff, but I really hated the dark
Well, it's
room.
funny you had mentioned that because one of the reasons I became a photographer back in the Stone Age was the darkroom work really appealed to me. The processing, the chemicals, that got me into it because I just thought all these gadgets, the tanks and the enlarger, I found fascinating. But now don't even go near that anymore.
Right.
I kind of did it. It was very romantic when I did it. There's something about watching a print come up in a tray
hmm
that's really magical.
Right.
And, it can be, I guess, the same to a point digitally, not quite the same,
Right.
but at least I'm not inhaling chemicals in a room,
Yes.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So you did a bit of darkroom work. You say.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can relate to what you're saying about, that moment of seeing, the print coming to life. But in my case, it would be either overexposed or out of focus.
Yeah.
And I'd be so frustrated. And there'd be stacks of photography paper with just bad images at the end of the day. And like, oh, there's like $50 worth of nothing. Right
Well, it's funny because you don't realize what you were doing when you were doing it. Then when did you have time to do that? You had to develop the film. You had to wait for the film to dry. You didn't know what you had
Exactly.
until you put it in the enlarger and went, oh man, that ain't happening.
hmm
And then, like you say, it comes up in the tray and it's like, oh, this is not what I thought.
Exactly.
Which I think there's a whole generation of people who, because it's just digital, I think there's something to be learned from that process. But you can't go home again. You've got to embrace.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Not
mean,
going back.
now you go, okay, I got it.
hmm
Which is a bit of a crutch to me. When I shoot, I try not to keep looking, but it's so difficult not to do that.
hmm
And you go, okay, I'm good with that. But back when you were shooting film and I was shooting, you didn't know any better. It was the process. Again, and use the word process. You were fine with that. I'll know in a couple hours if I got something.
Right.
And then if you don't, that's okay.
Yeah. And the other thing was you were pretty much limited to 24 or 36 images, shots.
With 36 was the luxury.
Yes.
If you could afford a roll of 36
Mhm.
exposures. Yep.
Now, I come home with like over 1,000 shots and I have to go through and
Well,
at least one of them will be in focus.
Well, yeah. But again, not to repeat myself, you didn't know any better. You just paced yourself.
Mhm.
And I remember going, okay, you whatever you were shooting, I got 2 frames left.
Right.
I better make those count.
Mhm.
And I don't remember getting any anxiety over that. It's just the way it was. I remember doing, big production shoots saying to the client, I've got one roll of film left. I was shooting with a medium format. It was 12 exposures. I go, we got 12 frames left, and it's 4:00. We got to pace ourselves. And you did that.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, you got it done.
Right.
Now it's like, oh. There's one word, editing. You shoot thousands, literally hundreds or thousands of photos. You got to edit those suckers.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I bought a new camera about 6 months ago, and it takes a lot of pictures really fast, which is great out in the field. But when I get home, it's like, oh man, I got to go through each one of these. And there'll be like 12 in a row that just all look the same.
Don't you find you're not really aware of how much you're shooting till you get home?
Yes.
And you go, oh my God, this is going to take a week.
Yes.
And I don't care what you have, like whatever format or program you have, you still got to edit.
Mm-hmm. You still have to review each one.
Yeah. And then you realize, boy, I got nothing.
A whole lot of nothing.
Or if you get that one shot and you go, oh, it was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the way I like to, it's like, I remember shooting down Flowery Lane in Plymouth, and I was down there years ago, and I kept shooting. All this haze had come in, and I'm shooting, and I got back, and I had like 12 killer shots, and I've never done it before or since. That one 20-minute period, I couldn't do anything wrong. Now, sometimes it's like pulling teeth.
Yes, yes. You never know.
Yeah. Now, any photographer influence you when you were shooting? Anybody
No.
that you looked at, admired, or
No?
No,
I'm just kidding. Boy, there's so many, and usually they're like not famous, Ansel Adams types. They're just people who I see a photo somewhere, I'm like, oh, that's nice. I wish I took that.
Yeah, yeah. I find the same thing. There's a book, Robert Frank's book, The Americas, came out, and it was really influenced me a lot. It was 35 millimeter, kind of grainy, not technically great photos, but beautiful photographs.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another photographer named Danny Lyon that did a great book about the road crews, the chain gang people down. But then I'll see a picture by Andy Leibovitz. But to say I can't say I have one favorite photographer. There's so many good ones.
Yes.
I love the old Dust Bowl photos, the WPA photos.
Yeah.
With Walker Evans and Dorothea Lange, and those just go, look at what they did with the equipment that they had.
Mm-hmm.
But they were getting that point in time that's just so
right.
And that influenced me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but there's so many good photographers out around.
Right.
I mean, it's
good photographers or good photos.
Not a question or a statement.
Take it either way. Usually you're asking the questions. But it did remind me that one photographer who I admire is Anton Corbin.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's mostly known for working with all our rock bands, especially U2.
Joshua Tree, all those. Yeah.
And the stuff can be kind of grainy, but I think he's created a genre that really goes the fine line between commercial photography and fine art photography.
Mm-hmm. I find his stuff is very retro feel to it. A lot of it's black and white,
mm-hmm.
if not all of it. And I think I was going to ask you that. How do you feel about digital? I feel like I like the mistakes that were done with film, and I don't think you've really been able to get that feel digitally. It's getting better. Black and white digital is better, but it's not like the old film digital.
Right.
And how do you feel about the work that you're seeing now with contemporary photographers? I feel like a lot of it's very compressed and very tight.
Yeah, I'm starting to see more a variety of good. I think a lot of photographers try to emulate other photographers.
Of course.
And I'm seeing more people just being more carefree and doing what they want, and let the audience decide if it's good or not, or if it's worthy of purchasing or
mm-hmm.
calling art.
I just feel like people are going for I'm not saying this about everyone. I don't want to be like the old guy, talking, screaming at clouds. I
Yes.
probably am becoming that. Go for the feel,
Mm-hmm.
because you have so many tools now that we didn't have when we were doing stuff when we were younger, and that's okay. I probably know more about music than I do about photography, and I feel like music is kind of the same way. It's not sounding the same. And I found there was a period of time when digital was coming around, everything was kind of looking the same because everyone was using the same programs,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. I think people are now, they're going for the moment.
Yes.
Cartier-Bresson said the decisive moment.
Right.
And it might not be totally in focus. It might not be, but it's the feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, boy, that's a cool picture.
Right. And then I also see in situations like that where if you have a picture of a person on the street or whoever your subject is the photo good because the photographer brought his skills to that, or that model was a beautiful person to begin with? Like that model woke up beautiful, but that photographer didn't wake up with that great photo.
If you get a beautiful model, you're halfway done.
Mm-hmm.
And how to screw that up, but you can.
Right.
I just find when I talk to other photographers, they're so caught up in the equipment and the apps and what program are you using, how many megapixels you have.
Mm-hmm.
I get to a point where I just zone that out. Is the photo good? Did it move me?
Mm-hmm.
You want a reaction from what you do,
Right.
good or bad. I always get a kick out of when people say they don't like something I do. I learn more from someone saying they don't like something I do than someone saying, "Oh, this is wonderful, wonderful." But the photo should move you. Then you talk about
Right.
the lens, the megapixels, I'm just amazed at the work I'm seeing done with phones now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know how to do that with my phone. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't talk to me. But man, I've seen some brilliant stuff. But the whole app thing, I can take the background out. I can take this. I can add a sky. I start zoning out a little bit on that.
Mm-hmm.
One, because I don't know how to do it. And two, I don't know how to do it.
Right.
But, it's, again, we're going to talk about music in a minute. When you hear a song, it moves you. You don't ask what kind of guitar it was or where it was recorded. You do that later. And I feel like photography is the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When someone goes, wow, that's cool. End of story.
Right.
Then we can talk about, what lens and stuff, because
Right.
there's so many things at people's fingertips now to do so many. I'm amazed at how you can eliminate a background on a phone. I don't know how to do that. That was epic when we were doing commercial work.
I know.
Stripping the background of something would take a long time.
Yes.
Now I guess there's a button on a phone that can do that.
I don't know. I try to avoid that. I try to be as pure as possible.
Yeah. Now, so you're doing a lot of polo work. That's been your forte for a couple of years now, right?
Yeah, I kind of fell into that.
You do beautiful stuff too.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe like 10 years ago, I went to a match with a group of photographers, and I had this certain shot in my mind. I kind of want to emulate like an old Western movie where the cavalry's coming at you and the horses are kicking up the dirt. And
yeah.
They're all in line. It took me a while to get that shot. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of like this. And then I would get down low and made the horses look even bigger or more dynamic.
It's funny, you mentioned the old Westwood polo. It's an interesting metaphor. I mean, the two things, because polo was a high-end sport, obviously. The Old West, I'm kind of, so you wanted to mix that together. The stuff you've got, because I'm not good with sports. I'm good at stuff that doesn't move. That's my forte. But some of the images that you've got are just breathtaking.
Thanks.
And I know you're shooting. It's fast. That's fast work.
Yes.
Do you know where to place yourself? Have you got into that?
To an extent,
to anticipate what's going to happen.
No, because you don't. It's a huge field. I believe it's the size of 7 football fields, and I basically position myself for the lighting. Like I know if I'm at one end, that the sun is coming over my shoulder and it's hitting the players in a certain way, and I know that they're eventually gonna be coming down the field towards me.
How big is the field?
It's about, I think, equivalent to 7 football fields.
That's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I think we've talked enough about our photography career. So what I'm going to do with this podcast and with whoever I interview, we're going to segue to music.
Oh, I hate music.
Yeah, I know. So my question is, what did you listen to at home around your house when you were growing up? What did your parents not make you listen to? What was around the house?
My dad was a huge Irish music guy, so we had a lot of like the Clancy Brothers and
Mm-hmm.
other traditional Irish music playing. So we just thought that's what music was.
Yeah.
Between that and being in the car, which was the WPLM in Plymouth back in the day with the big band jazz stuff.
Yeah, Rondella Chiesa. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah. My mom really wasn't a music enthusiast, but my dad definitely did.
Yeah. Did you have records?
Did I?
Yeah, I mean, did he have records?
Yeah, he had a lot of jazz collections, like down in the basement. And
Did you ever flip through those and look at those?
yeah, I'm like, just the feel of them, like they were like these nice, thick, like the 78s, and they must have meant something because like he really had nice cases for them.
And the artwork on a lot of those old jazz albums.
Yeah.
What was it? I can't remember the label, but I don't know how much jazz you get into, but a lot of those old Miles Davis and Count Basie and the old black and white kind of big band things, those were really cool.
Yeah. And I didn't really understand that kind of music, but it's interesting as I got older, you become a teenager and you become this rebel kind of person, and you think you have nothing in common with your parents. And like one day I realized the common ground I really have with my dad is this music.
I think
the Irish music and the jazz.
Yeah. No, I like I say, I'm a frustrated musician that became a photographer, and you'll hear a song and all those memories come back, the smells, the whatever,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, like driving in the car. And it's wonderful when you get a common bond with like your folks with anything. It's like if you like, I'm sure your dad probably didn't like some of the music you listened to later.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But when all of a sudden you find, I don't know the Beatles or whoever it was, and your parents like it too, and you could both listen to that and enjoy it. Now, what was the first record that you bought?
Let me think. It's either a Jackson 5, but it was on the back of a cereal box. You had to cut it out in a circle.
Yep.
And play it.
Yeah. So you were quite an audiophile back then.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But what I ended up would do was my dad gave me this portable cassette recorder, which was like cutting edge at the time. And then I would hold the microphone up to the TV and tape the audio of the Partridge Family every Friday night. Make true confessions here.
Really high tech. So what was the first concert you went to?
Let's see. I think it was Styx at the Providence Civic Center.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few months later, I went to see Queen at the Boston Garden.
That must have been something.
It was great. And I just thought that was what set the bar for performances, and assuming that this kind of entertainment just is going to get better. Yeah, and it really didn't.
Mm-hmm. I never saw them live, but I just know, I don't think anybody that saw them wasn't influenced or impressed by them.
Mm-hmm.
But we were talking earlier about photo shoots, about the type of music you play when you're shooting someone, or photographing someone, sorry. Yeah. Maybe talk about that a little bit, how music can set the tone at a photo shoot.
Yeah.
Which I know exactly, yeah.
Whenever I've had people over to do a photo shoot, it would really frustrate me like a day or two before, like, oh, what am I going to put on for music? Like, I don't want it to be. I try to figure out what their personality is like and what's going to relax me. Um,
Now, when you say that, were you photographing musicians or were you doing just headshots?
Mostly just headshots.
So like a corporate headshots.
Yeah.
So, and you don't really know the person, correct?
Right.
So they're coming in kind of cold and you're trying to get a vibe going.
Right. And yeah, you just never know what it's gonna like how much it's going to affect the shoot. And I had a few people over one time where I think I had some David Bowie on. This one woman, she loved it. She knew every song and it really relaxed her. And another woman at the end, and she's like, "This was great. I would totally do this again." Like, we need better music. What are you talking about? It's David Bowie.
Yeah.
David Bowie.
Yeah. I remember.
She wanted to hear country western.
Oh, yeah, that would be a problem. There's a great quote by the drummer Buddy Rich. He was going into the hospital, and they were wheeling him in for something. They go, "Are you allergic to anything?" He goes, "Yeah, country music." Yeah, it's funny. You can put Muzak on. I've always tried to do something a little bit more with a heartbeat. The problem when I'm working with musicians is I'll ask it, bring your stuff and we'll play your stuff. And then sometimes they'll start mouthing, pantomiming to what they've recorded, that kind of thing. But yeah, music is kind of it's a weird thing. I bumped into someone and they basically said I don't listen to music. And I go, how can you not? Listen, music is just so important to me. I'm being very, very selfish to say that, but there's nothing that you like. There's I used to be very arrogant about my listening. If I listened to something and liked it, you had to like it too. I had to convert you. I stopped doing that years and years ago. But someone will come up to me and say, I went to a show, and it might be someone I don't like, but if you had a good time,
right?
Who's to say? I saw Barry Manilow was playing the Garden the other night. And I was amazed that Barry Manilow was, one, still around, and two, he could fill up the Garden.
Right.
But, I don't have much of an opinion of Barry Manilow, but
But he made 17,000 people happy that night.
Yeah. Mandy. Wasn't the song
Yes.
Mandy? And that, yeah.
Time in New England.
Yeah. I know he wrote a lot of commercials too.
Yes.
Burger King or McDonald's and stuff like that, which I think that's to do what he did when he did it and then become who he became. He paid the rent, like you did doing Staples. Now you're doing Polo.
Right.
Go figure. How does that work?
Right.
Yeah. So do you feel like you're always still learning as far as shooting?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And plus, at this point in my career, I'm taking on different challenges. Working for the local newspaper. So shooting for a newspaper is a different psychology than shooting sports or fine art type stuff. And I'm also dabbling into shooting events, birthday parties, engagements, gun for hire kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, no, it's I think to do what you love, which we both have been very, very lucky to do that. And I'm more of a studio kind of guy, but every now and then you get thrown a curve, like someone will call me and go, "Can you photograph XYZ?" I go, I don't know. And somebody called me years ago and said, "You photograph jewelry," and I hadn't photographed any jewelry. And I think I said, "I'm aware of jewelry," and I said, "Drop off a couple pieces and I'll give it a shot." And so I remember the woman saying, I was the first photographer to say I didn't know how to do that. I said, "Well, I'm going to be honest with you. And jewelry can be..."
Yes, very challenging.
And I don't know if I guess I did okay. But I never have the audacity to say, I'm good with that. Food, yeah, I'm okay with food. But jewelry, and she started laughing on the phone. She goes, "I like your honesty." I said, "Well, bring them by and we'll see what we come up with." And I think it worked out okay.
Oh, good.
I don't do a lot of jewelry, but No, I think that's the cool thing about you get a phone call for whatever. It's like, okay, you're a little out of your comfort zone, but think about it, put it together, you can do a good job.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially when someone hires you, it's like you have to look at the finished product through their eyes. It's not just me being subjective. It's like, am I meeting their expectations? Am I entertaining them? Am I flattering them with the work?
Yeah. That's the thing that I found with the commercial work that I do. It's at the end of the day, if the client is happy,
Mhm.
you know, I'm happy. It might not be my cup of tea. It might
Yes.
not be my style, but the thing that I like is when you get a phone call a week or two later and they go, "Hey, what you did helped me do this."
Mhm.
And because we're in a service business and we just kind of like keep it simple, don't overthink it. Um, give the client what they want. But then if you can inject a little bit of our egos into it,
Yes, yes.
you go, maybe you might not want to do a purple background.
Right.
Uh, although some people like purple.
Mhm.
I often look at a photo shoot as a jam session with musicians in a way. You get together and you start, and it starts here, and then it ends up over there. And hopefully it's better than where it started. Like when you're playing music, the song will evolve and it
Yes.
could fall apart. Not every photo shoot goes well. Have you had any horror shows with photo shoots at all?
Oh, yeah. Just communication with people. And I had a woman who hired me to shoot her graduation. I mean, it was mostly after the graduation, a college graduate. And she was disappointed that I didn't make her look taller. And
Isn't there an app for that?
if there is, I'm not aware of it. And it was a rainy day. It just stopped raining. And she was disappointed that everything looked dark. Like,
She wanted to be taller.
she wanted to be taller and she wanted a different skin tone. And like she mentioned these things while we were shooting. And I just kind of laughed it off, thinking she was joking. It's like, yeah, I can't really make you look. And she's standing next to her boyfriend, who is taller than her.
I think that might be a problem that as photographers, because of the digital aspect, you can do anything.
Right.
Like you say, the big red button. Like you can make me look 30 pounds lighter. Well, you probably can, but it's not something that I really want to do. And I've seen some incredible work, and then I've met the people, and they don't look like.
Yes. Yes.
And you go, you know.
Yeah.
And I think people just think we as photographers collectively with the technology we have, we can fix anything.
Right.
And you probably can.
And they believe they look like the altered image.
Do they?
The few that I've met do.
This is where AI is scaring me.
Yes.
Because you can do that. And I say this probably a couple times a day. I'm kind of glad I've done what I've done when I did it. I don't know if I'd want to start over now because I can't understand AI. Say you want a hamburger. In 10 seconds, there's a hamburger. And it's okay. You can see the difference. I can see that. The more you look at it, you can see the modeling or whatever. But that's going to really, I think, affect photography the way synthesizers affected music.
Exactly.
And drum machines affected music. It all started sounding the same.
Right.
You know, my son is a great drummer, but he wasn't getting much work because drum machines came in at the time. And then it's like all of a sudden people go, geez, things are going to start looking the same. I don't know if people can really see AI right now.
I don't know if it requires a trained eye or not.
I have a hard time with it sometimes. It's like when you see CGI stuff in movies. It's really, really good.
Yes.
Or it's crap.
Right.
And I think they're going to lie. But I think when we first met, I was doing a lot of catalog work. Well, there's no point of doing catalog work anymore because AI can generate. I used to do a pen catalog every year. I did it for almost 20 years, and I'd have to photograph pens every fall, one at a time. Boom, boom, boom. I don't have that client anymore, but I'm sure they can AI generate those pens now. They don't need me.
Mm-hmm. If you're a business owner, it's great because you can cut your costs.
Yeah.
But as a creative person, as an artist, yeah, not so good.
Yeah.
Unless you're creating the AI. But is that really art?
I haven't attempted it. I talked to my daughter the other day, and she's looking for a new job, and she used AI for her resume,
Mm-hmm.
and she was reluctant. But when it was done, she goes, "Man, it really." And I've seen some. I haven't seen a lot of AI work. I just keep hearing about it. It's going to affect art big time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What are we looking at? Is it a photo? Is it a painting? Is it real? Is it not real?
Right.
And there's going to be good work, but it's not like, I think, and again, coming from the older generation of that, it's there's something very synthetic about it. But the cost-effective thing is very apparent. I mean, you're not cheap. I'm not cheap. But when you go, I can do that for $1 or for free.
Yes.
What do you do about that? I can't compete with that.
Right. And then going back to our earlier conversation, when one of the reasons I got out of the graphic design world was because a lot of the work can be done with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't compete with that.
Well, I think we're going to wrap this up a little bit. What's your favorite album?
Queen's Night at the Opera.
Okay.
Everything from the album cover to the variety of music, and they just took rock and roll and added all kinds of different styles and really pushed everything from writing to engineering to its limit.
But we need to talk about, we can't do it now, running out of time a little bit. We need to talk about the pros and cons of shooting musicians in clubs.
You mean photographing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, photographing. Yeah, photographing, yes. I'll get a call from a band and they go, we're playing and I go, I don't want to shoot in a club. Because you get that shot and you got the microphone coming out of their nose.
Yes.
Or, and then, you can get rid of that now.
Right.
But getting those performance shots, and the lighting is always terrible.
Yes. Yes.
And you've got people watching the musicians and you're in the way.
Right. And for me, being up front, whenever I go to an event, I always try to get there early. And me being almost 6'4", I'm like that tall guy in everyone's way. So I'm always self-conscious of that.
Yeah. And if you can get in for the sound check,
yes,
get in before and say, look, could we do a half an hour for it? And people don't know there's no one there.
Right.
That kind of thing. But yeah, shooting musicians in clubs, they always say, it's a great room. And you go and there's 180-watt bulb hanging over their head. And you don't want to use a flash. You want to shoot available light.
And the drummer always gets neglected.
And my son is a drummer, and I hear that all the time. Yeah. I realize, okay, I got to get some shots of my kid. And it's always the front man. But thank you for doing this. This has been great.
Oh, thanks, Ed. Thanks for having me here.
No, this is a first, I hope, in a series of things that I'm going to be doing. I'd like to thank Chris, the engineer in there, for helping me put this together, and the local scene. If you hear this and you like it, let me know. And if you want to get a hold of me about doing a little segment like this, it would be great. How do people look at your work, Jim? How can they get a hold of you?
Well, my website is jimstagram.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that is kind of like a portfolio of my work, including my graphic design work.
Cool.
And I'm on Facebook, Jim Curran Fine Art Photography.
Yeah. Well, support the arts, folks. And like I say, this is going to be, I think, of an ongoing project. If you'd like to get involved in it, please let me know. But thank you, Jim and Chris, for your time. Everybody be safe, be well, and we'll talk soon. Bye.